What is going on, everyone, and welcome to Around the Metaverse, our weekly show where we bring together some of the best content creators from the blockchain and NFT gaming community, talk about all the recent news, and give you guys everything you need to know to stay up to date. My name's Adam. I'll be your host today, but more importantly, we've got an amazing group of guests for y'all today. First and foremost, we got Stache in the house. How's it going, my friend?
Yo, doing it another Monday. We love it. The metaverse. That's what it's about. Metaverse Mondays. That's what we love doing here. I don't know. Fun.
Metaverse Mondays, baby.
All the friends
We got
here on Around the Metaverse here on Mondays. It's
all
great.
the friends, baby. We got Miss Teen Crypto in the house, keeping it zesty as usual, I hope.
Of course. Thank you guys for having me. I'm so excited to be back. It's always a vibe
Of
here.
course. Yeah, we're happy to have you back on the show. We got a couple new faces in the house too today. We got for those of you out there who are on TikTok all the time, you might recognize him. We got Blockchain Boy in the house for his first time on Around the Metaverse. Happy to have you, man. How are you?
Thanks, guys. Yeah, it's a good day to be on the metaverse, man. Real life sucks, so we're here.
Real life sucks, so we're here.
Oh
I mean,
no.
I
That's our
guess the
new
metaverse
slogan.
is
I'm stealing that now. Around the
yeah,
Metaverse.
real life sucks, so we're
Feel
here.
free. That's a great catchphrase.
Quick, you gotta trademark it or copyright it so before Stash can steal it from you.
That's my gift to
And
you.
then last, oh, and then last but certainly not least, another new face, executive producer and anchor of MetaverseXpress. We got Meta Mona up in here. How are you?
Hi guys, how are you? Thank you so much for having me. You finally brought on a real news reporter. You needed one, and I'm here to present facts, guys. I'm here.
We're happy to have you, Mona, and we're happy to have some traditional news broadcast experience coming to the crypto
No way.
space.
We're no. We ran away from the traditional. We're not doing traditional anymore. This is decentralized news right here.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
and we gotta make sure to show all the guys at MSNBC and Fox News what's up, right? But
Absolutely.
before we jump into the show today, I actually want to give a huge shout out over to the folks at Illuvium, our very first sponsor here at Around the Metaverse. They actually recently announced their land sale is right around the corner, and it's given the opportunity to everyone to pick up one of their land NFTs. It's going to be jam packed with utility right out the gate. Owning land in Illuvium is going to give you guys the ability to start accumulating fuel, which is going to be their sort of in-game resource. It's going to be vital if you want to be a big part of the game. And if you're like us and passionate about supporting teams that are paving the way for the future of blockchain gaming, this is a drop you're not going to want to miss out on, especially when they have an already playable game with gameplay that looks this good. Now, if you guys thought that looked cool, head over to the Illuvium Discord and make sure to hop onto their website to get all the details on the land sale that's coming up. Like I said, you're not going to want to miss out on this, especially if you want to be a big part of the game. Getting in on this is going to basically cement you as a foundational part of their ecosystem. So make sure to check it out. But let's dive into the show now on on another crazy week of things that happened. I mean, I'm sure all of you guys have been on Twitter seeing everything that's trending in NFTs and already maybe know what we're about to talk about here tonight. We're going to be talking about the Bored Ape Yacht Club, Other Side land sale, an Ape token, kind of some might say another fumble for Yuga Labs, the Akutars exploit, another, it just seems like another week of disappointment in the NFT space, or another couple weeks of disappointment in the NFT space, and we're going to get into that here. And then lastly, is crypto gaming the future? What can we do to kind of educate gamers on why crypto is kind of the next frontier in gaming? But let's dive right into things with the bigger story here tonight. Bored Ape Yacht Club and the Other Side land sale happened this past weekend. It was a massively hyped drop. Basically, anything anyone could talk about on Twitter for at least the past 3 days. And what ended up happening was it was kind of a flop. The smart contract was poorly written, so it ended up with a massive gas war. I think over $100 million, maybe like a lot more than that actually. I'd have to double check. Like, was it like 200 million or
200.
something like that?
200 million. Yep.
Oh, I thought it was
Well,
300.
yeah, over 200
200
Well,
million.
I heard 500 million.
I heard
Yeah.
300. Hold on.
I think
We
will
need
It's
to
a
be a
lot.
small
Like,
country.
once you
out
get
the
past
window.
100 million, doesn't matter.
Oh wait,
Yeah,
it says over 200 million on this article,
Over
so that's
200
not a
million.
finite
Yep.
number. Yeah.
But yeah, over 200 million in ETH was essentially burned up for gas fees, or not burned up, but some of it being burned up, other parts of it being sent to miners essentially, and a lot of money being sucked out of the NFT ecosystem essentially, right, from this drop, which could have been avoided with a better smart contract. People get dropped their land, they reveal it, and it actually turns out that kind of the art for it's a little bit disappointing too. So overall, the peanut gallery is not happy, but I want to get your guys' thoughts. Blockchain Boy, let me start with you. Do you think Yuga Labs and Bored Ape Yacht Club could have done a better job with this land sale? Like, what could they be doing to, be doing more for their holders and their community?
I mean, I think it's funny you said the art is disappointing because for me personally, I've always thought the Bored Apes was some of the most lazy NFT design I've ever seen. They inspired some very lazy designs. Of course, JPEGs look better the more expensive they are. So I've come around a little bit on the mutants at least. But no, yeah, I mean, Yuga Labs, right? They're under this huge microscope. They've taken on some VCs here. They're kind of thrust into this, leadership position that I don't know if they necessarily thought they would be even 6 months ago. Because I feel like the Bored Apes have really come a long way, even in the last half a year. They've pretty much been the best investment you could have made since Bitcoin, I want to say, in the crypto space, for like less than $300. So personally, I think that this probably could have been handled better. I think that's a general consensus. I'm not a huge fan of gas wars, but I'm also not a huge fan of Dutch auctions, right? So we're still figuring out what the best way to do a mint is. Either way, you're still going to kind of be predisposed to the people with more money who are able to enter the raffle more times or who are able to spend more on Ethereum. So it still is a bit of a rich club, unfortunately. I would have liked to have seen some kind of raffle system, perhaps using some kind of verifiable, like there's a project called Governor DAO that allows you to verify identities. Since they were already KYCing, this could have been a way to KYC per wallet. And I think that's probably what they should have done. At least that's what I would have recommended in that position. But they didn't, and we wasted the small GDP, of a country here. So it is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of criticism coming to Yuga Labs' way, especially since, they're one of the most established companies if not the most established company in the NFT space, and they probably have the resources to be doing more for these things. Miss Teen Crypto, let me ask you, how do you think Bored Ape Yacht Club is going to change after this drop? I mean, like currently, I'd say they're one of the most popular collections, if not the most popular collection, especially in like traditional spaces. Do you think that this criticism is going to affect them at all, or do you think that this is just another thing that people are going to forget about in a week's time?
I'm kind of iffy on this one. At the same time, Bored Ape Yacht Club has done amazing things in terms of community. They've always tried to be there for their community. They've been pretty transparent throughout everything. I have faith in Yuga Labs. I think they're here to stay. They're not here to try to cut like short anybody or make anything difficult than it already is. I think overall we're still extremely early, and like you said before, we still don't know a great way on how to do a mint correctly that's going to please everybody and work technologically. I heard even Etherscan crashed because of this drop, so we're still extremely early and we need to work out this technology, but this was again another step in the right direction, just learning from this and moving forward. I do think Bored Ape Yacht Club could redeem themselves from this. I think this could just be something they correct and people move on from, but who knows?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how this kind of unfolds, especially since like it's kind of been time. It's almost like they've been particularly lazy. It almost feels like with how they're handling, developing their ecosystem from where it's coming, right?
Yeah.
They were one of the top projects in the OG days, or one of the projects that kind of brought NFTs into the limelight, right? And now that they're in the limelight, it almost seems like they're not really pushing the envelope as much as they could anymore. Metamona, let me ask you, do you think other side land is going to be like worth the hype, right? Like some people spent, I mean, God, I think Gwei was up to like 4,000, almost 5,000 when this dropped. So people were paying like one or two Ethereum almost in gas fees sometimes, just to get their hands on one of these deeds. Is it going to be worth it in the end, do you think?
I like to look at a big picture. For me, is not so much about that as it is about some facts that we need to consider here. People were spending, as you mentioned, $1,000 to get their wallets approved, but couldn't mint because at some point gas fees were at 8,000, Gwei. And the thing about it is, Yuga Lab talks about a refund, but who's going to refund the non-other side transactions that were affected? Because there were a lot of them that were affected. We talked about there were 200 million lost in gas fees. This is money that could have gone to Yuga or stayed in users' pocket, right? And let's not forget, this whole ordeal took 317 million out of the ecosystem. That, as an investor, makes me mad. And here we are again questioning and blaming it all on Ethereum scalability problems. And yes, I'm not saying they don't have those issues, but what's important is knowing that the decentralization should never be used as an excuse for decisions of centralized backed companies. I think Yuga Labs should acknowledge and take accountability on things like not setting max gas limit for minting, whitelisting more addresses than available NFTs. There was no gas optimization. Now, in their defense, Vitalik Buterin came out and tweeted that even if Yuga Labs optimized their smart contracts, people still would be paying those high prices. So, is it going to be worth? There are bigger issues to consider here, because if we don't fix the problem, we're going to have mass adoption questions and issues. We're going to have problems with harsh regulations that could be coming our way. And this is really not what Web3 is about, and this is not what we're promoting here. So, to me, I'm looking at these bigger issues rather than can I flip that plot.
I kind of think Mona has a great point as well. Like, we're running into these issues now, and NFTs and Bitcoin to begin with is very much not mainstream as it could be, right? What would happen if something like this were to go crazy viral? There were millions of people trying to get in on this drop. That would be millions and millions of people with lost money, with very much disappointment. That could very much halt mass adoption, and we need to figure that out. The masses could come in quicker than the technologies may be ready for, and that's why we need to look into and improve other protocols as well. It's on top of building on Ethereum too, but just something we definitely have to think about.
You bring up a good point there in what essentially what kind of rolled out from all of this calamity is that Yuga Labs came out and apologized essentially for what had went down, and then suggested or mentioned that they are looking into building their own layer 1 for the Bored Ape Yacht Club ecosystem, which has had both positive and negative reactions for kind of some interesting things. Stache, I want to get your opinion on this. Do you think it's a good idea for Yuga Labs to create their own blockchain to scale Bored Ape Yacht Club and like the other side metaverse? I mean, or would they be better off using an existing layer 2 solution that's out there for Ethereum? I know Immutable X actually went and reached out directly to Yuga Labs and Bored Ape Yacht Club people saying that they were going to put a proposal in for them. But there's talk of them making their own blockchain. So I'm curious to see what you think.
Yeah, I mean, do I think that they should? Probably not. I mean, I think the fact that they're thinking about it is at least a step in somewhat of the right direction. They could easily have been using a second scaling solution like Polygon, but really, I mean, personally, I would have gone with Immutable X. I think there's issues also with Polygon as well. But a drop of this scale is going to have its problems. Now, the fact of the matter is that we know that. We know that because it's just kind of how things have happened here in the past. It is where we're at in the industry, but that doesn't mean that you should just be lazy about the way that you go about a drop. And that's exactly what Yuga Labs did here, and that's exactly what they continue to do time and time again. So many people are looking at this from a micro perspective, and they should really be stepping back and looking at the macro perspective of what has really gone on here with this company. This is a company that has billions of dollars at this point. They've garnered so much in their drops, and then over the time with the trading fees they've been able to grab from the secondary market. I mean, they're sitting on fat bags. The fact that they have not audited their contracts better, had like multiple people working on these smart contracts for drops, every single contract that they put out has had some sort of problem. The Ape coin drop, there was a very simple issue there that people exploited to be able to take advantage of it. Now they say, well, who does it hurt? Oh, did it hurt anybody really? Well, I mean, yeah, there's definitely people that could hurt, and this time there was a lot more people that got hurt as well. Like Mona was saying, there's people who didn't even get to mint that transaction, got already thinking they could be a part of this metaverse, and essentially got hosed. You know what I'm saying? So, and then we see this time and time again where, okay, they put out a lazy a contract, essentially, just not putting the due diligence and time in that they should be for the level of company that they're operating at right now. And do you know why? Because they don't care. And do you know why they don't care? They don't care because they know people will just keep throwing money at them. They know they have everybody in their pocket, and they know that no matter how shitty they do, no matter how lazy their contracts are, no matter how little amount of due diligence or audit that they put on their contracts, they know they have a fervent community out there, very we'll say cultish type of community that will buy up their stuff no matter what. And exactly, we'll just jump on it, and it doesn't matter how horrible it is. Dude, we had almost no details about this drop days before it went live. They said it was going to be one way and then changed it like right before the drop. I mean, it was like 24 hours, maybe 2 days before the drop, where they said it was going to be a Dutch. I mean, like how are people putting their trust into this company? And then all it comes down to is like, don't complain, bro. Yuga made you rich, and that's pretty much the bottom line. Because anytime you see anybody, even within the Bored Ape community, that says anything and is critical of Yuga Labs, then they just have the rest of the Bored Apes coming at them saying, "Oh, Yuga made you rich, bro. How are you gonna get on?" And it's just ridiculous to see that. So I think that what we're seeing right now is just in my opinion, it's sad. It's sad to see a company at this level operate in such a shamble. And it's the same thing we saw with Axie Infinity, and the same reason why their smart contract got one of the largest hacks in the entire history of our industry, because they just don't care. They have all this money, they're sitting on it, and they're just putting in the bare minimum work to get by, and then scrape millions of dollars from the rest of us. So that's what I'm thinking here, man. With what I see with what they're doing as a company, do I think that they're going to still continue to be successful? Of course they are. See reason one that I just gave you. People don't care. They just think, oh, I'm going to be rich. Who cares? Just throw money at them. I don't care how horrible a company they are. And we're all getting Lambos and we're getting girlfriends. So it doesn't matter how shitty they're actually doing. So that's what I think about what's going on right now. And it's sad. I want to see them doing better, and it's just sad. Nobody cares.
And if they were to create their own blockchain, their own solution for ApeCoin, right? What would maybe something like Axie with the Ronin network happen with that? So
right,
it's just
exactly.
like that's
a horrible idea.
Like that's scary. I mean, that's where something like Wax would come in. Like Wax is literally World Assets Exchange. It's made for this. It's made for these type of things. And also OmniLite, the new layer on Litecoin, would make something like this usable as well. So I would look into. If I were them, I would go into something like that. I even commented that on their post.
Or go to Polkadot, or look at, like I said, Immutable if you want to stick with Ethereum. I mean, there are other options out there. And would I trust if they made their own blockchain? Like, no.
I think that was kind of what they planned to start. I honestly think that there's a serious chance this could have just been a publicity stunt to market their new chain, which they'd have control of, which they could then monetize further. It makes sense if you think about it. Or they could surprise everybody and build on the XRPL, since they have so many NFT grants going on right now, as we saw in NFT LA.
Would people trust it? Would people invest in it? Would people just take the risk? I don't know.
Well, on their own chain, of course.
You think
like
so?
Stache, like Stache said, I mean, this is a rich boys club, and it's sad to say that because I mean, this is not what we're here for, guys. You know, we're
Yeah.
wanting mass adoption, but when you portray something like this, there are people out here that I'm trying to convince to say crypto is it's not a casino, or this is not a casino, guys. There's utility involved here. That we're trying to build a ecosystem here. We're trying to build a cyberspace economy, and things like this are just gonna hinder our growth. They're going to cause mistrust, which we're going to talk about further in the upcoming stories. But we're just really, this is a beginning stage of something big that we're building, and if we're not paying attention to these details, we're just going to make this process much harder. We're going to get regulated in ways we do not deserve. So somebody like this company, that they're a staple. Everyone is looking at them. They're the ones who are paving the way. And this is just a big disappointment, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean,
RIP.
like Stache said too, if you are a Bored Ape Yacht Club holder, Lambos and new girlfriends, and your worries are gone away. Who cares if we're not pushing the envelope on making these things better? And talking about lazy contracts, in our next segment here, we're going to get into the Akutars exploit, which was another kind of blemish on the NFT scene, which seems like one after the other the past few weeks. And in this project, Micah Johnson collaborated, and technically another celebrity NFT project that had some issues, collaborated with Pusha T on this one, where they essentially were dropping their Akutars. And what happened was during Mint, there was an exploit in the contract that essentially sent all the funds from Mint to be in a place where they're essentially inaccessible to both the founders, and whereas the person who kind of perpetrated the exploit would be the only one to release it back to them, I believe is how it went down. But another $34 million kind of sucked right out of the system here. And this one's interesting because those were the funds that the project was going to deliver all the promises on, right? Those are the funds that the project was going to use to build everything that they hyped the drop about. And I'm curious to see what they're going to do now, especially since their project soared in volume and price the day after they announced that they were going to refund people who kind of got messed up in this, and then also airdrop all of the Akutars to people who actually did kind of get their transactions successfully through, but didn't get their NFTs. But I want to get your guys' opinions on what we should be doing about this problem in general. Miss Teen Crypto, let me ask you, what should NFT project founders be doing to avoid exploits like this? Bored Ape Yacht Club, Axie Infinity, all these people who are not doing the best by the people in our communities. What is the ideal founder going to do to kind of avoid these things?
Do their due diligence, man. Why do we have so much money at our fingertips? We have all the top devs, the smartest people in the world. I'm going to say it right now. The smartest people in the world are in crypto, and they're accessible to all these people that are running these projects. People are throwing themselves at these projects to work for them, to get involved. So why wouldn't they fix this? Like you said before, maybe they have the money to not care about it. But if they want to be here to stay, and if they want to be successful and kind of change the way we're looking at gaming and NFTs, then why wouldn't they just put in the time, put in their due diligence? It's not something that they couldn't avoid. It's not something that was inevitable. It's not something that was at the fault of the tech itself. It was just a misstep that they could have taken.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know. It's just a basic philosophy. Have that moral compass and just hire the people you need to
Moral
hire.
compass? What's that?
I don't know.
We're in crypto. Does that exist?
People are just missing here.
I don't know. I don't think the moral compass is very apparent in anywhere these days. But I mean, it's kind of unfortunate what happened with Akutars, along with all the other lists of hacks that have happened recently. Stache, let me get your opinion on the community side of things. What can we be doing as part of the NFT community, as participants in this market, to I guess like avoid these things in the future to kind of to not prevent them from happening, because obviously we can't prevent them from happening, but like what can we be doing to kind of educate and guide founders in the right direction on what we need?
I mean, the problem here is that with a lot of these contracts that are just hastily put together, a lot of it's like a copy paste type of job, and these companies have like no actual developers. They spend all their money on marketing, on Discord bots, on trying to hype their project ahead of time, and they don't spend the time on the development or on the audits of their smart contracts. There is a short supply of auditing type of software and companies that can do these audits. And I think that really is one of the bottlenecks here, is what I would say. We need to be able to push that this is a best practice in our industry and something we should require before we see these things mint. There should be a full audit that is available on a website to be able to see. We've gone through this process, right, for ICOs and other things as we've continued to evolve in this space of what we really require as buyers in this industry to be comfortable, to feel comfortable with what we're getting into. And I think that a full audit of the smart contract from a reputable company should be one of those. But I think that we're in short supply of those companies. I know that like real large companies like Certec, they're months and months booked up, So you have to get these guys well in advance. And a lot of these companies are not planning that far in advance. These are companies that are doing these things in just a couple months' time. Then they realize, oh, we can't get our smart contract audited by one of these large companies, so we're just going to go for it anyways. I'm sure that the 16-year-old we have slapping this code together, I'm sure it's good. And then what happens? Another 16-year-old hacks that shit in like 2 seconds and is like, ha 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 ha. I saw a post about the kid who's like 15, and he was like, I wrote all these bots and I took advantage, and basically I own almost all of the land, or he owns the most other side land because he used bots to be able to KYC, bought the KYC process, bought the minting process, and he did it for other drops too. And it's just like these things are being done by kids. Your contracts and your setup and what you've come to bat with is being undone by a 15-year-old. What is that saying about how much due diligence you put into the time for this stuff? That millions of dollars and community people who are really invested in this, everyday people like me and you, where does it put them? It puts them incredibly in vulnerable, targets. So it's just sad to see, but I think that's where the disconnect is with the companies themselves, not being enough auditing companies out there, and these companies not using that as a due diligence practice.
Well, yeah, and it's interesting you say that too, because I think, Stache, you talk about industry standards a lot, and I think that's going to be, you and I both think that's going to be one thing that kind of pushes this forward. But we need to support the things that have those, right? And I'm curious, like, when the projects that are innovating in this space are going to get around to doing something like that, and if they don't, what's going to happen? Like, I mean, God forbid the government comes down, right, and does some kind of consumer protection nonsense on all this, right, where we know they're going to get it wrong too, right? And Mona, I want to get your opinion on this too, specifically, like, because I mean, I could see that as a real possibility if people don't kind of, or founders of projects don't start to get their acts together. Like, do you think that the government would go about regulating NFTs, like from a consumer protection standpoint? And how do you think that looks, at least from the U.S. side of things?
First of all, let me just say this was another gut wrenching event, and I'll put it this way. Let me first reiterate kind of what Stache was saying. Devs and artists run the NFT space, so don't go cheap on neither. Good devs know and will demand their worth. Investing in, like Stache said, code audits, automated testing, and security are crucial here, right? And finding a way to bring these best practices into our space in a way that they can be consistently evaluated, and there can be transparency. Transparency is huge here. Regulations will be enforced if and I mean they're inevitable, but if there's no transparency and the consumer doesn't know what they're buying, we have a huge problem. People need to know what it is that they're buying, right? And I think that will be critical in making the space more mature, more secure, and frankly more trusted. you know, I do believe regulations are coming. I don't know what that will exactly look like. I believe that, you know, if NFT is considered a commodity, then the CEA's rules on manipulative trading may apply to NFT transactions affected on a spot basis, meaning like fully funded, unleveraged transactions. If the NFTs offered on a margined or leverage basis, then the requirements could be that it's traded solely on a registered derivative exchange. I'm not sure. Or is NFT considered a security? Then there will be different security laws. I'm not an expert in that, but I do know that we're just opening ourselves up to the big brother looking down and slapping those regulations at us.
I mean, it's going to come eventually, and I mean, I hate to say it, but I have a bad feeling that it's going to be less than desirable what they first, kind of put in front of us, and then it's going to be a definitely a tough battle, getting that legislation to where it needs to be to foster innovation, at least here in the U.S. I don't know what it's going to look like elsewhere in the world. But I don't have good faith in our people to kind of make the right decisions right now. But Blockchain Boy, I want to get your opinion on all this craziness, and Akutars in general. Like I mentioned, another kind of celebrity NFT collection here, collaborating with Pusha T, and we all know how those have gone, right? But these actually saw a really increase in volume and floor price right after they announced that they were actually going to kind of continue on with their work. Do you think that this exploit is going to be something they can recover from long term? I mean, all of the funds that they were going to use to develop the things that they promised for the NFTs, is in thin air right now.
I mean, they're obviously going to have to re-release their roadmap. I think it's so funny though that this is the only industry where we can have a multi-million-dollar project by well-known founders be like, oh, sorry guys, there's one wrong line of code. There goes $30 million. Sorry. And that's not even the biggest headline of the week. That's just funny to me. I think it really is. We live in a really weird space where that doesn't make me bat an eye. But no, I mean, when projects encounter things like this, where it's not necessarily the fault of the devs maliciously, right? It may have been oh, our code is we just took this off of GitHub and didn't check who wrote it, and some fucking high school kid is his final project is oh, I didn't mean for that to happen, but at the end of the day, it's good that they're trying to push forward, but when projects are compromised, when projects lose liquidity like that, whether it's a cryptocurrency project or an NFT project, you're going to have those issues. And we live in a very unregulated time. And these NFT regulations, there's two kinds of NFTs that I really think need to be differentiated from: the artistic side and the I'm going to go start a business and raise funds, but now I'm not doing a Series A. That's essentially the two. Right? So you have this is art. This is like I'm raising funds for a business, and the government ain't going to let that slide. I really don't think we can do an NFT drop in 5 years the way we can do it now, in at least the United States, because it's going to be a whole rigmarole of, hey, is this a security? Is this a promise of returns? So the question remains, is the government going to let this fly? Is the community going to let this fly? Because I've stopped minting projects. I don't mint projects unless I know the artists and I'm minting, to show the support for them. And I've had them on Twitter Spaces. I know who they are. I don't mint. I buy on secondary because these projects, they're coming in real hot, and it's a lot of hot garbage. So that's my 2 cents on that.
They're coming in real hot, and it's a lot of hot garbage.
There with you, man. I've literally stopped doing mints, especially on Ethereum. I haven't mentioned anything on Ethereum. I don't know how long. I might buy on the secondary, but you're right. I mean, I totally agree with you, man. It's been so much confusion and so much hype and so much drama. And how much longer is it really going to be like this in our industry? You're right. In the next 5 years, I don't see it being the same, and people are definitely taking advantage of it now. So I mean, that's the only thing I could say is if I guess get it while the getting is good, because the government want that money. They want that cut, man.
Go rug while the rugging is good, man. You know what? I'll tell you this. I had this conversation with a friend of mine. If my morals were way less, I would be my background would be a beach in Bali. The space is ripe for bad actors.
I know, me
God
too,
forbid
man.
Anyone-
I've talked about this time and time again on my channel as well. You know, having some sort of dignity and morals and integrity, it doesn't do you justice in this space, because the people without those that just don't care, the companies that just don't care, and then try and, like, you know, false flag like they do care. Those are the ones that make the most money, and it's kind of sad, but it is what it is. And I'd rather be, you know, have less funds and be more broke than not have the integrity and do things right like I know they should be. So.
And I think over
Sounds good.
time,
Man.
things like that will just get filtered out, right? You know, like I just don't think that like
I
a lot
hope.
of if especially, you know, a lot of money is being taken from people, and especially if something really goes viral. I'm telling you, if there are kids involved, something really goes viral, a viral album is getting released as an NFT drop. There's millions of people getting involved, and the smart contract messes up, or, you know, like things crash on whatever blockchain you're using. That's going to halt a lot of stuff, a lot of mass adoption. So we need to fix it.
Yeah, I mean, pushing the boundary and on incorporating more people into crypto is always the #1 goal, and we're really not doing the best job at that right now, especially in the past few weeks with, you know, again, exploit after exploit after exploit after rug after scam after whatever it might be, and we're going to talk about that too in this next bit here, where we're talking about the future of crypto gaming and kind of what we think is going to be the next big wave of onboarding people into crypto, which is gaming. But right now, it almost doesn't seem that way, because all of the news that we're getting out of traditional gaming about NFTs, the metaverse, and crypto seems to be glaringly negative. Almost so much so that, like, certain game studios are almost like banding together with each other to, like, start to promote against cryptocurrency, blockchain, Web3, the metaverse, all that. I want to get your guys' opinions on this stuff. Blockchain boy, let me ask you, like, what would you say are the biggest misconceptions right now that gamers have about NFTs and being a part of gaming?
So I think from a gaming perspective, we need to stop shoving the NFTs down people's throats, and they need to be allowed to prosper within their areas. I'm not a fan of the whole play to earn, right? I love blockchain games. Not a fan of the play to earn. It should be play and earn, because these games are, a lot of them are just really they're Ponzi-nomics, and they're not fun. We need NFTs to they need to be allowed to grow and you know, show people like, hey, you know, this is not an NFT game, it's a game with NFTs. People really hate, you know, crypto and NFTs. There are people who are like vehemently against it. Every time I see a project, you know, collab with a large brand, if you go to the large brand, underneath in the comment sections, they're like, oh, gross, NFTs. If there's 100 NFT haters, I'm one of them. If there's 10, I'm one. If there's one, I'm one. And so people are really against it, right? But I don't believe the future of the metaverse is in land that costs you $30,000. I don't believe the future of the metaverse is in a space where you have to pay $5,000 to get in. I think that we have a long way to go before we see the fruition of NFTs, and we need to stop pushing it people before it's ready, because that's how they get those misconceptions of, oh, it's a $5,000 monkey, or, oh, you know, this game it looks like a crappy version of Pokemon. Oh, and their coin is down 90% because their in-game economy crashed. Like, it's just not ready. And I think we can avoid these misconceptions by not trying to be like, hey, this is a final product. Let's go put it in Counter-Strike right now. People need to understand this is a growing technology, and we're only seeing proof of concept. And I think there's a real big disconnect between people who play video games and who've never bought NFTs, and they're just seeing mainstream news, and that's where they're getting this from. So that's my 2 cents on the whole NFT gaming thing. It's the future, but it's not necessarily something we need to force right now. Like, let it have its moment.
Well, and yeah, it's funny too, because, like, at least when I'm talking about, like, the metaverse as it, like, is marketed to people, right, as it's delivered to people, especially traditionally, right, people who aren't, you know, like, in the know in crypto all the time, again, getting fed stories about apes selling for millions of dollars, and, you know, the rich kids club, right? But like what is being delivered to them as the metaverse is probably 20 years out, and I think crypto gaming is what's going to kind of take us from point A to point B over the next like 10, 20 years, right? And Stache, let me ask you kind of along those lines, like what are some of the biggest benefits that blockchain tech brings to gaming?
I would say the biggest benefit really is owning your own assets, right? There's so many thousands and I mean millions. When I say thousands personally, but millions of dollars invested into gaming assets already. Before crypto and NFTs were even invented, people were spending millions of dollars on in-game assets, but they don't actually own them. These are assets that they can't trade almost 99% of the time. There's a few edge cases out there that do have markets for their skins, but very few games have this. So a lot of it's being done in the black market, right? So then what happens is you have people going out there making either money off of doing black market transactions, which are shady. Sometimes they don't go through. Maybe you get scammed, and then also maybe you're buying counterfeit gear. Someone used an exploit inside the game to mint these extra things, and they have 10,000 of this super rare gun that they're not supposed to be 10,000, but you don't know that because they exploited it, and then you just paid $1,000 for that rare skin. This happens a lot more than a lot of people think. If you're not in the gaming industry, maybe you don't understand that. So I think that's the biggest use case for what is going to be beneficial with blockchain technology in gaming. It's going to be through NFTs. Now, with that being said, I think play to earn is still a viable solution, or play and earn, because I do like that term better. It should be play and earn. I think it's a viable solution. We just haven't found the right combination yet. It's still so early, and the problem is that the development cycle is so long. It's hard to iterate over this quickly. Now we see this happening with like PFPs and other NFT projects and crypto projects. They can iterate really quick. Boom, boom, boom. We're pumping them out. This thing didn't work on this one NFT chain that came out. Okay, this other one is now doing something similar. They copied the code. They switched them around. Boom, boom, boom. They have another project out, and then we do it again and again and again. But we can't do that necessarily with games and game economies. They take a lot longer to develop and a lot longer to deploy to the community, get people testing them, and a lot longer in some cases to fail as well for us to then learn from. So the cycle is a lot longer there, and I think that we will find that solution eventually. But what we have right now, we haven't seen anything that is like, hey, this works for sure. Because when we do, everyone will be copying that mode and will be using that particular style. And I think we'll get there. But right now, the use case for NFTs is it's undeniable. To see gamers push back so hard on NFTs is just it blows my mind. I've been a gamer since I was 5 years old. I played on every console. I've been playing PC games since I was 12, building computers. I'm in this as much as you could be in this. And the fact of the matter is, I would rather own my assets as NFTs and be able to sell them later once I move on to the next game than have to just be like, all right, well, that was $1,000 in skins. I had fun. Great. It's out the window. And I don't think anybody really likes that. And so it's surprising to see gamers push back so hard. I think that we'll start to see more and more of that, those walls, those barriers come down as we see good companies deploying NFTs in a smart way that it is not cash grabby, is not scammy, and is not trying to take advantage of its users.
Yeah, I'm interested to see the company that actually does that, right? And hopefully, I can't wait for the day that we have like a blockchain integrated like World of Warcraft or a blockchain integrated RuneScape or something like that, or a blockchain integrated Roblox, right? The sandbox is working pretty hard towards that. We know. But Mona, I want to get your opinion. Like all the disconnect here, a lot of us I don't think are really understanding, especially since traditional gamers a lot of times are criticizing NFTs and crypto in games for much of the same things that traditional cryptocurrencies get bashed for. So like environmental FUD, scam FUD, that sort of thing. Why do you think it is that a lot of people are just not as educated or have these misconceptions about crypto technology, especially in gaming?
Listen, from scams to monetization concerns to environmental impacts to Ethereum's carbon footprint to scalability, these are all concerns, yes, for gamers, but hello, it's also a concern for the masses. Everybody has these concerns, right? But what we need to remember and what we need to reiterate is that we're building a decentralized ecosystem where, you know, the goal is so that users can have a choice in their experience, right? That creators have control over their relationship with their audience, that developers have the freedom to build. These are our goals to create this space. But we also have to remember that this is the beginning stages of creating a cyber economy. And there is so much to be done to make it secure, to make it efficient. But the critical point here is that we can't forget is that in order to bring everyone on board, there needs to be education, right? And
Yes.
we have to have these types of conversations, right? We have to talk about energy consumption and eco-friendly options and initiatives. We have to convey not just to gamers, but to every user how to avoid fraud and how to implement security measures, right? So I guess we need to really remember that this is just the beginning of something really incredible that is being formed, that we're all a part of. But we can't forget that it's still in that, just like Stache said, experimental stages.
Yeah, so like Mona said, if you guys are watching out there, you're still early, so don't worry. Um, but it's interesting to see how gamers, a lot of us would think that they would be ones to really wrap their heads around this first, right? To really understand the benefits of having custody over your assets, right? Being able to have royalties on from the devs creating those assets so that they benefit in perpetuity, right? Which is not the case currently necessarily. And like exactly for that reason, like why are development studios pushing back on this? Even like I mentioned, I think there was a story about Mojang and Minecraft like kind of banding together with other game studios to essentially discourage the use of NFTs within their servers, or being able to attach NFTs to playing in their servers, right? And like,
gamers are a
I don't
salty
get,
crew, man.
I don't get this, man. Like,
Yeah, I mean,
like,
this is kind of salty.
It's because of the narrative,
Well,
man. They want to blame NFTs for all the carbon impact. They want to, they don't address the fact that you can have NFTs on proof of stake ecosystems. It's really a sad narrative being spun. And ultimately, though, I think it won't matter. It will come down to, is it more profitable for me as a company to drop NFTs, or is it not? And I think ultimately that is the answer that will decide if NFTs ever get into these AAA games. Because that's essentially them ceding control to people who really, they just want to pay $60 a year for the same thing every time. And so there's a bit of a control aspect there that I think a lot of companies aren't necessarily into. In high school, my buddies did a lot of CSGO trading. They would trade skins like crazy.
Yeah.
And you're exactly right, Stache. The black market transactions were crazy. I'm not going to name names, but they also scammed in TF2. They would take these little items. This like see there's 1,000 items of like this hat. The first 100 would have like a number to them, and they'd be called low crafts. And they would go around being like, "You got any low crafts?" And the guy'd be like, "No." And then some other guy'd be like, "Oh, I have a low craft," and they try and buy it for a certain amount. It was a weird, intricate thing, but it was this could have been resolved with NFTs with a price history, but they were like they were like 14, so they didn't know what they were doing. But
that's what I'm saying. I've done some of the same stuff, man, where I've dealt with shady people, meeting them in game to like trade the item after I've PayPal things back and forth. Like there's so much going on there that the blockchain could really help in the back end. And I think that games will be using this technology, and we won't even know. Like right now, everyone's like, "Oh, NFTs," but eventually it'll just be like, "This is how it works." And no one's even gonna say it's an NFT. It's just gonna work like that in the back end. It'll be obvious.
It's like Hyperledger Fabric.
Yeah,
it's literally like Hyperledger Fabric, because like that's how blockchain is being integrated. It's so boring, no one gives a shit about it.
Yeah, right, exactly. It'll get there.
a lot of like these games that won't integrate NFTs kind of reminded me of like the teachers I had last year, like when I was in high school, telling me that like Bitcoin's a Ponzi, it's never going to work. And I literally just went back to my high school today to teach 2 investing classes about Bitcoin. And now they're like, oh, okay, so this Bitcoin stuff, it actually looks pretty cool. So I think the same thing is going to happen with the gaming industry. And they're just trying to band together, trying to stop the wave. Like, no, NFTs no good, until they kind of don't have a choice. And they're like, okay, maybe I have to look into this because the industry's booming so much that if we don't get in, we might miss out.
100%.
Until eventually the levee breaks and the flood ensues.
Mm-hmm.
If we can just have more Miss Teen Cryptos in the world. Going back to high school and teaching finance.
Hell yeah.
Thank you. Mona, I want to give you a
I know.
hug through the
We need
screen
more of
right
that.
now. Thank you.
Agreed.
It was
But,
crazy.
I got you, girl. Thank you. No, thank you.
Oh my
we
gosh.
could all use
so
a little
much
bit
love.
more education, especially about personal finance. I know in high school specifically, that doesn't get mentioned at all. But
Yeah.
you know, hopefully, crypto and crypto, NFTs in the metaverse, all this stuff. The beauty of it is that it brings a financial aspect to a lot of the things in life that we don't kind of consider that part of today. And I mean, let's be real, every part of life is financialized. Anyone who tells you different is wrong. You know what I mean? That's just not how it works. But you know, crypto brings that stuff to you know, the focus of things, and hopefully it's going to be something that lets financial education be more pervasive through our society as it gets more adopted. You know,
It peels back the
by
curtain.
everyone.
Exactly. That's exactly what it does. I've
Let's
never heard it phrased
replace-
like that, but that's exactly what it does.
Let's replace humanities with crypto education, please.
Yeah, but we're running out of time tonight, guys. I want to thank you all for joining me today, our guests on the show, and then all you guys watching out there. I want to thank you guys for watching and tuning in tonight. Before we leave here, don't forget to smash that like button and hit subscribe if you haven't already, and then don't forget to go in the description and check out all of our guest channels and do the same for them. You know, mustache love, spread the mustache love to them as well. And then this has been Around the Metaverse. We'll be back next week. See y'all then.
Thank you.